Hello everyone and welcome back to Don't Be Bored. Today I'm joined by Sean, the lead developer on Lairs. This is an upcoming two-player only game where you are trying to vie for the last spot in the Adventurers Guild. So welcome Sean, please introduce yourself.
Hey, yes, my name is Sean Jacquemain. I am the communications director at KTBG and Burnt Island Games. And basically, I do a little bit of everything, but one of the big things I do is work on development of different games. And I've been working for quite a while, about the last couple of years, on the development of Lairs. And it's been super fun, super challenging, and we're so proud of the game that we've come up with.
So in Lairs, the players will both be creating a catacomb for the other player and adventuring their opponent's catacomb. How did you sort of balance those two game elements?
Yeah, so that's the really unique thing about Layers is that you're going to be spending half your time as the adventurer, kind of exploring your way through your opponent's dungeon, and you're going to be spending half the time as sort of the dungeon master, telling them what they see and letting them know when they run headlong into traps, monsters, or even just a dead end. And what I find is that it is just as engaging when you are playing the dungeon master as it is when you're the explorer. When you're the explorer, you're discovering everything, you're seeing stuff for the first time. When you're the dungeon master, you get to kind of see them approaching your carefully laid plans, your everything you've laid out for them, and see if they're making good moves or bad moves. So it's kind of like a hidden movement game where you get to see where their movement is taking them.
That mix of Dungeon Master mode and Adventurer mode, I really like the idea of that. That sounds really cool. And players are going to have things like walls, traps, and sort of monsters as well at their disposal. Could you talk about that a little bit more?
So when players are building their own dungeon, they're going to have the same set of walls, traps, treasures, and monsters to lay out there, as well as a starting point and an exit. And so there's a few very simple rules for laying out your dungeon, but essentially you're going to put your monsters out there, your traps out there where you think people are going to run into them, and it's oh so satisfying when they do. One of the actions in the game allows players to kind of peer ahead and see if they're walking into danger. And when used correctly, it is quite helpful if you can spot a monster before walking right into it. Quite a helpful thing to have at your disposal. But um, I think the monster that traps, well, I mean, honestly, because of the nature of layers, we are going to be revealing information as the game is kind of played. So players are going to start with a really basic set of traps, treasures, and monsters. And over time, they're going to open new boxes, open new envelopes, and that's going to introduce some new monsters to the game. So the only monster I feel really comfortable talking about right off the bat, that's going to be the Hungry Blob, which is the monster you're going to face in the very first game that you play.
Ooh, intriguing. I do like it when there's a box to open or an envelope with a little bit more stuff. That sounds really cool and always gets players invested in the experience. And talking about the experience, when it came to the playtesting, is there any memories that stood out?
So we have been doing a ton of playtesting of layers over the past couple of years, kind of refining the system. When it came to us, it was the brilliant idea of two players building a dungeon behind screens and each player kind of running each other's dungeon. And over time, we've kind of developed this really interesting cube system and a way in which we're going to introduce new information into the game so that each new rule is kind of layered on, which is great. And so some of my best memories, I think, probably the first time we play tested it in its current system, which would have been PAX 2023. Me and Josh, my co-developer and the artistic director from KTBG, we just would catch up with each other as we talked after various play tests, and as we realized people were really loving the game and seeing the game for what it was, and seeing the game for what we saw it was. When Christopher first came to us with the idea a couple of years ago, That was so satisfying. It's always satisfying to get a game in front of an audience and hear their feedback. And even if it's terrible, it's nice to at least hear that. And in this case, people were really loving it, and that was really gratifying. So that's got to be my favorite memory.
It's nice to know that Lairs has gone on that development journey and that there was sort of some satisfaction when it did click. That sounds really good. And your sort of role on the game is a lead developer rather than the designer. Could you sort of elaborate on the differences between the two?
Yeah, so I worked as one of the lead developers on Layers, and what I found, I mean, the difference between a developer and a designer is the designer is the person who has that initial spark of an idea, and they're the ones who, inspired the game, and they may be involved with development from the very start point all the way to the published game on the table, and sometimes they just, do the original idea. I mean, we've worked really closely with Chris Westmass, who is the designer of Layers, and he's been a huge help and a huge contribution to the mechanisms of the game, the lore of the game, and he's really helped us out quite a bit. In terms of developing, I would say it is the grind work of it. It is play testing, trying ideas that you don't know are going to work, but trying them anyway, because if they do work, they're going to be amazing, and really grinding through hearing feedback you don't like, having to compromise with your fellow developers, and getting it to a point where everybody is happy and loves the game and just wants to play it again and again. So the designer is the one who comes up with the idea and does the initial grunt work of putting a game together. And once it's at that point, I think developers, often in conjunction with designers, will work together to bring that game over the finish line.
And finally, where could people go to find out a bit more about the game?
People can learn more about the game. We are Kids Table BG on all of the social platforms. And we do have a Kickstarter page up right now where people can sign up for it and get all the information, more information about Layers when we're launching, and what they can expect to see in the Kickstarter. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to this one. Layers. It's going to be great.
Thanks to Sean for coming on and answering the questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Uh, Thanks, everybody. Go check out Layers on Kickstarter.
Links to the Kickstarter campaign and the other links mentioned are going to be in the description box downstairs, so you can go there and check them out. You can go and find out more about Lairs, and, well, it certainly sounds an intriguing mixture of gameplay elements. I really like the sound of that, and hopefully you have too, and enjoyed this sort of deep dive behind the scenes a little bit and finding out a bit more about the game. Again, thanks to Sean for answering the questions, and thanks to you for watching, and until next time, have a brilliant day gaming.